I do want to get back to some breaking news that we have been following over the last several hours here. An armed Utah man accused of making threats against President Biden fatally shot by FBI agents hours before the president was expected to land in the state. Special agents say they were trying to serve a warrant on the home of Craig Robertson over in Provo, which is south of Salt Lake City, Utah, when that shooting happened. Investigators also say Robertson posted online Monday that he had heard Biden was coming to Utah and was planning to dig out a camouflage chute and, quote, clean the dust off the M24 sniper rifle. Ken Gray is a former FBI agent and current senior lecturer of Homeland Security and Criminal Justice at the University of New Haven and joins us now live to talk more about this developing story. As always, thank you so much for taking the time to be here.
Hi, Josh. Glad to be with you.
So first off, just break down for me what we know so far. Again, this has all been developing over the past several hours, so information is kind of slowly coming in.
So the FBI has said that while executing a search warrant and arrest warrant, that a person was shot and killed in that event. So there are little details that have come out from the Bureau itself. However, we're learning more details from the media that this is Craig Robertson, a 75-year-old male who has made numerous posts on social media, making posts about threats against the president, the vice president, the attorney general, District Attorneys Alvin Bragg and District Attorney Letitia James. And so this is a person who has made threats, and this is not a brand new piece of information. This is something that the Bureau had actually started an investigation on back in April of this year, and that they have been dealing with this as a person who was an ongoing threat. But it was the president's visit to that area that caused this to come to a head where they had to do something about it.
And that's what I was going to ask, is how does the fact that the president was going to be there in a matter of hours really impact a situation like this? Does it make it more important that they act fast?
Absolutely. Is that you have a person who has made posts claiming that he was planning to shoot the president, shoot the vice president, shoot others, and that the president is coming to the area. This person has demonstrated the fact that they've taken pictures of themselves with a ghillie suit on, which you see here, which is camouflage suit that you wear to try to hide inside the woods while you are being a sniper. He's shown himself to be clearly a threat, and he has made the threats. And then the president's visit to that area means that they had to act, and they had to act quickly.
And of course, you're looking at one of the posts right there on your screen coming from his Facebook page. Now, one of the posts from the man was, quote, "The time is right for a presidential assassination or two, first Joe, then Kamala." I would imagine the FBI does not play around with things like this, especially when you are talking about the president of the U.S.
Yes, absolutely. So U.S. Secret Service is a federal agency that is responsible for the protection of the president. However, this man had made a couple of federal violations. The FBI had started an investigation on him. Secret Service was working with the FBI in handling this threat to the president. The FBI was trying to arrest Mr. Robertson and to carry out a search warrant at his house to find evidence to support that he had committed these crimes, when he apparently, we don't know the details yet, but apparently tried to oppose their entering into his residence, and he was shot and killed.
And so at this point, obviously a lot is under investigation, but just from your experience, do you think people realize the severity of what they're posting online? Because these are statements that have been posted, whether or not anything was going to actually happen or if he planned for anything to happen. The fact is, these are some serious, I guess, statements that he is making. So do you think that people realize the severity of their statements online?
So people are free to express any opinion they want, but they cannot make violent threats. And so Mr. Robertson had crossed the line. He crossed over from expressing his First Amendment rights to hold whatever opinion he wants to, once he has started making threats, he was violating federal law, and so he had to be arrested for those threats. I think you are absolutely right that some people get lost when they're making political statements online and social media and don't realize the gravity of the situation when they make threats like that, that you cannot make a threat against the President of the United States and not expect to be visited by either Secret Service or other law enforcement.
And as we've mentioned, we don't know a lot of specifics just yet officially from the FBI, but to go from serving a warrant at a home to fatally shooting a man, these situations, I'd imagine, can escalate fairly quickly. You go to a home and you don't really know what to expect.
That's exactly right. So the FBI, while trying to serve a search warrant with a child pornographer down in Miami 2 years ago, 2 agents were shot and killed in the process of serving that search warrant. So whenever you carry out an action like this, there is a risk to the person that is being carried out against, but there's also a risk against law enforcement agents or officers. So this is something that has to be taken into account when you're putting together a plan. Looking at the video that you are now showing, it looks like this is the Salt Lake City FBI SWAT team that was executing this search warrant and arrest warrant, and apparently they got involved with the shootout with Mr. Robertson.
And we do know, as we mentioned here, that they were serving that warrant. FBI appearing to also be running surveillance on the home itself prior to all of this, possibly for days and days. Is that fairly normal, standard practice in a situation like this?
So Mr. Robertson, when he was first being identified as being the person who was making these threats, his home was surveilled to determine who he was and if they were looking at the right person. And then he was actually interviewed in his driveway. And at that interview, he said that the threats that he had made were just him reporting what he had dreamed about. And that he also told the agents that he was done with them till he get off his property. And so this is a person that the surveillance that was being done on him was for identification purposes. I'm sure that they did periodic search checks against them. In my opinion, Mr. Robertson could be considered to be a violent extremist, an anti-government violent extremist. That's one of the new categories under domestic terrorism, and he is making a threat to carry out a political ideology.
And we know that the Secret Service appear to be working alongside the FBI. Do the two agencies work alongside each other frequently? I would imagine that it's difficult, or maybe could be difficult, for them to coordinate, because we are talking about two major agencies there.
So they do work closely together, especially when there is a threat. The FBI is a much larger agency than U.S. Secret Service. They don't have as large a presence around the country. And so somebody in Utah like this here, that was a threat to the president, they would rely upon some of their agents, but also upon other agencies like the FBI to be able to carry out an investigation. But the Bureau and Secret Service work very closely together, especially concerning threats like this.
How has the rise in social media essentially impacted situations that involve threats against people, including the president? We're talking about, everyday people all the way up to the president of the U.S.
Yeah. Social media has really intensified activities of people who are either on the far left or the far right. You see that social media can turn a regular event, like we were discussing on Saturday concerning the events there at Union Square in New York City. That was a posting on social media, and the next thing you know, you have a mob of teenagers and preteens that were there showing up to try to get free PlayStations. Well, social media takes a small event and amplifies it. And so with the political season coming up and the people being concerned on both sides of the political aisle about this, you see the intensification of these type of feelings. Mr. Robertson, if he had stuck to strictly posting his dislike of President Biden, he would be alive today. But by making threats, and showing that he had weapons, that puts him in a different position. He becomes a real threat.
All right, Ken Gray, as always, thank you so much for taking the time to help break that down for us. Anything else that you want to add about all this before I let you go?
I think that you hit the nail on the head, the fact that social media really has intensified all these type of things, and I would expect to see more of this in the run-up to the presidential election.
All right, thank you again for taking the time to be here.
Certainly.
All right, everybody, and I do want to take a look here at just some of the images that we do have coming in. This is, again, as we mentioned, a Facebook post, an image that was posted by that suspect there. I want to go over some of the basics of what we know so far, as an armed Utah man accused of making threats against the president fatally shot by FBI agents hours before the president was expected to land there in Utah. Special agents trying to serve a warrant on the home of Craig Robertson in Provo, which is south of Salt Lake City, when that shooting happened earlier on today. Now, investigators say Robertson posted online Monday that he had heard Biden was coming to Utah and he was planning to dig out a camouflage suit and, quote, clean the dust off the M24 sniper rifle. It is likely more information will be released in the coming days, so we will bring that to you live, raw, and unfiltered as we do get it.